how could you win the loyalty of such men? There are proven ways. Play on the certain knowledge of their superiority, the mystique of secret covenant, the esprit of shared suffering. It can be done. It has been done on many worlds in many times. Widely recognized as an elite military force, the Imperial Sardaukar of House Corrino are one of the primary factors which ensure the Emperor's dominion. A fearsome reputation preceded them throughout the known universe, due in no small part to their superior fighting skills, ferocity, and ruthlessness, all driven by a fanatic religious zeal. In this video, I'd like to talk about the religion of the Sardaukar and how their beliefs shaped them into the mighty soldier-fanatics who secured House Corrino's hegemony for some 10,000 years. As with many of the religious elements in Frank Herbert's series, the heaviest influences on the religion of the Sardaukar can be traced back to Earth with roots in Islam and Judaism. While admittedly very little was generally known about their religious beliefs, it was understood that these ruthless fighters followed a way of warrior mysticism. While the great houses of the Landsraad are made to believe that the Emperor's forces were made up of young and superbly trained levies, with an occasional rumor regarding Imperial schools and training cadres, the truth of the matter is that the Sardaukar are secretly trained on the Imperial prison planet and former homeworld of House Corrino, Salusa Secundus. The harsh conditions of this devastated hell world mean that only the strongest survive, a factor which ensures that each resident of the planet is raised with a higher baseline toughness, strength, and ferocity. As is brought out in the appendices of Dune, on Salusa Secundus, members of the Sardaukar are typically trained from a young age, with the inhospitable environment being responsible for taking the lives of nearly half of all persons before reaching 11 years of age. The ones who survive past that point had generally learned to rely on cruelty and terror as weapons. Beyond this, they were militarily trained with an emphasis on ruthlessness and a near-suicidal disregard for personal safety. In order to win the devotion of these heartless men, House Corrino relied in part on the powers of religion. As Duke Leto pointed out to his son Paul, the loyalty of the Sardaukar could be gained through a play on the certain knowledge of superiority, the mystique of secret covenant, and the esprit of shared suffering. Like many others, the religion of the Sardaukar draws on the innately human desire to find greater meaning, a sense of purpose, and to serve something greater than oneself. However, given the beliefs of these merciless killers, it's apparent they also maintained a supremely venerated view of the warrior. It's safe to assume that the Sardaukar's faith had some significant Zen-Sunni influences, as Salusa Secundus was one of many stops on the pilgrimage of the wandering Zen-Sunni, who would eventually find their permanent home on the desert planet Arrakis. Because of this, it can be said that the religion of the Sardaukar has somewhat of a shared history with that of the Fremen. It was also noted that elements of the Torah Collegiate and the Talmudic Zabur survived on Salusa Secundus, indicating the possibility of significant influence from Judaism as well as from various Islamic movements. Though the religions found in the Dune saga are often subject to change over time because of their shared history with the wandering Zen-Sunni, the theologies of the Sardaukar and Fremen also hold many similarities. The Zen-Sunni religion itself sprang from the Sunni branch of Islam while also carrying many Zen Buddhist influences. Upon a closer examination of Zen Buddhism, one will typically find that it requires a supreme level of self-discipline involving difficult and intimate training. This mindset is particularly prevalent among the warriors of Salusa Secundus, as well as the Fremen of Arrakis. It's also apparent that both the Sardaukar and the Fremen had long since abandoned the pacifist teachings inherent in their faith. Given their religious motivations, both of these warrior races believed themselves to be a people chosen by God. They both maintained a strong belief in the hierarchy of strength, the honor in self-sacrifice, and the elimination of the weak in order to ensure the power of the masses. Those who are strong enough to survive a childhood of hardship on Salusa Secundus are quickly molded into soldiers loyal to House Corrino through the reinforcement of the belief that they themselves were elite and superior beings. In many ways, the beliefs of the Sardaukar mirror those of the Spartans of ancient Earth. It is generally believed that in Spartan culture, if a child was unable to prove their strength and fitness, they would be abandoned and in many cases left to die. On Salusa Secundus, the environment itself is what would perform this kind of sorting, ensuring that only the most capable, tenacious, and hardy children would reach adulthood. If a youth was able to satisfactorily pass the trial of environmental culling, they would carry on with an intense training regimen overseen by the Imperial House and at the same time would gain access to many Imperial accommodations, feeding and fostering a sense of loyalty to the Emperor. The opulent lifestyle served to satisfy their desires and at the same time encourage devotion to House Corrino when called upon to serve. It seems, though, that this approach turned out to be a double-edged sword, as the strength of the Sardaukar was greatly diminished during the reign of House Corrino's last emperor, Shaddam IV. While the mystique of their warrior religion was highly effective for the many thousands of years prior to the events of Dune, during Shaddam's time on the throne, their religious fervor had been sapped by a widespread and growing cynicism. This cynicism was made manifest from several factors. In the first years of Shaddam's reign, the number of imperial commanders with the rank of Bursig had nearly doubled. With the Sardaukar's focus on their own power structure, this in itself would have provided cause for much resentment. Shaddam also proved himself to be quite insecure, relying too heavily on pomp of office and consistently meddling in affairs which were outside of his authority. This trait of weakness would certainly prove to be a challenge for his military forces as they struggled to maintain their devotion to the throne. Finally, in the 30 years before the Arrakis Revolt, appropriations for Sardaukar training drastically declined, resulting in a softening of their inherent military discipline and might. That being the case, by the time of the events of Dune, they were still viewed as the most formidable force in the known universe, and their blindness to how soft they had gotten only contributed to their arrogance and overconfidence. Overall, the mythology of the Sardaukar and the fear inspired by their unswerving and merciless religious zeal added greatly to their notoriety. This was what enabled the Corrinos to remain in power for many thousands of years. That being said, their reputation was also largely built on a foundation of tremendous skill, discipline, and training. However, it turns out that by the time the Atreides had taken over stewardship of Arrakis, the perception of the might of the Sardaukar had become greatly exaggerated. These factors contributed to many significant defeats at the hands of the desert-hardened Fremen, who themselves were only just starting to reach their most powerful potential, unlocked and motivated by their own heightened sense of religious fervor and zeal. While the Sardaukar were not completely eliminated by the Fremen, they never saw a return to universal dominance. However, the threads of their religious pride and strong feelings in the belief of their individual superiority remained in the members that lived on into the events of Frank Herbert's later books. But I'm curious to know what you think of the religion of the Sardaukar. Are there any similarities you see to the religious motivations held by other historical militaries? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.